Alright guys, today we're going to do something a little bit different here. I've had a couple of people asking me for build tutorials and such, and I don't want to do block by block tutorials for anybody, because this game is all about creativity, and I feel like just copying a block by block build is kind of goes against the spirit of the game. But I do want to show you guys my process in creating new builds, and hopefully it will hopefully it will inspire you guys and help you create your own new things. The first thing, and probably the most important thing I think a lot of people miss, is finding the center. Finding the center of a build is probably the most important aspect of, or knowing the center of the build whenever you're creating something is probably the most important aspect in building in Minecraft. I mean, it's also important in building in real life. So the easiest way to do this is the build method I use is called, well, I don't know if it's called anything, but what I do is a 3x3 or a 4x4 method. Let me get some blocks here so we can start discussing. Man, there's so many new blocks in this game. Red's a good one. Yellow. Orange. We'll pull some slabs down too. Blue. Okay. So this is a 3x3. And if you've ever watched somebody's tutorial, you'd see them count, you know, block 1, 2, 3, block. You know, block 1, 2, 3, block. It's 4. Oh, block 1, 2, 3, block. And the reason they do this is because it makes a 3x3 square. 1, 2, 3, block. And you know that your center is there. So if you wanted a single door, you would just slap your door down right there, and you'd have a nice centered door in your build. And this works for literally any size. You can make this 50,000 blocks long, and as long as you do your 3x3, you block 1, 2, 3, block 1, 2, 3, block 2, 3, block. So here we know that each space is 3. So we got what, 4, 8, 12, 13 blocks wide. So we know that we got an odd number, 1, 2, 3, block, 1, 2, 3, block. We have an odd number here, so that means that we have a center. Just like we got 6, 9 deep, 13 wide. Now, because of this, if I want to do a single door here, I can. And if I wanted to do a fire pit in the middle of the room here, boom, I can. And I know the exact center of my build. Well, maybe. There we go. So I know the center of my build. And so a lot of guys use this method. A lot of people use this method for like single doors and things like that. And it's very simple to find your door center or just your building center that way. So let's put this down here. We'll call this the 3 by 3 layout technique. I spelled it technique. Pretty simple, huh? Then the next one, we'll do it in yellow, is almost the exact same thing, except for it is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 block. Block 1, 2, 3, 4 block. Block 1, 2, 3, 4. And block. Now people do this when they're trying to build a, well, on this one you don't have a direct single block center, you have a square center. And you do this one whenever you're looking for something that suits your needs. If you wanted to build a square object in the middle of the room or a square pattern with carpet, because see here, you have no square. I mean, unless you just emptied out the entire room, you can't create a square. So the 3 by 3, the odd numbers are good for circles, whereas, because all circles in Minecraft wind up with a single block square, I think. It's been a long time, but if you wanted to do a square build, then you would need to do an even number. If this is our odd number, this is our even number. Now these are good for like larger builds, whenever you want to have a 2-door facing. That way you can have your nice double door set up. There we go. Have your nice double door set up. Or this would also be used like block 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Block 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 3. 4. Oh dang. That should be it. Okay. So we build our house facade. There. Now we have a nice entranceway that we can build. 2, 3, 4. And now we have our nice big double doors into our cathedral or our church or our mansion or whatever we were planning to build. So that one is a 4 by 4 layout. It's pretty simple. I hope that makes sense to you guys. So the big theme in building with Minecraft is you have evens and you have odds, and both have a very specific story to tell. Both have a very specific reasoning. Both of them are very useful when you're trying to make a build and you want it laid out in a specific way before you even lay your first block. You're going to know that this lines up. Like before I even lay my very first block, I'm going to know, if I use a 3 by 3, that my door will have a perfectly centered place. Like I can even knock this out and I can make the door the center of a 2 blocks or 2 square space. Now I also know that if I use the 4x4, my door is going to be offset by 1. Now if you want that, if that's part of your design plan, then that is very, good to know. But you also know that if you used a 2-door, that it would be spot on. But that's just kind of the beginnings of it. And odd and even is the techniques that I use to create a build before I even go into it. Okay. So as an example here, I've built this little mock-up house in a 3x3 area. This is my 3x3 technique. And if you walk in, I mean, it's just a plain Jane house. There's nothing fancy. But if I wanted to start doing a little bit of decoration, we could start putting some decorations down. Then I say, oh man, well, here would be a perfect place for a window. And it's perfectly centered in its section. See, if you knock that out, it's off-centered. But it's perfectly centered in its section. The house has a clear and defined center. So if we wanted to build a wall here, we use our technique. And now we know that, okay, I want a door right here. And we have just easily and quickly established all the lines in the house. They're all centered, they're all squared. Now, if your object is to be unsquared, because you know the center, you know exactly where to put it. Because, like, if you didn't want your door to be centered, but you wanted it to be offset, you wanted it to feel a little more homey, you would know that you can just put it off to the side, or you could, you can place it here. But because you know where your center is, you know where to move from there, if that makes sense. And again, this isn't a block by block. This is just a how to start laying out a building. Because, there's so many people that have these block by block tutorials, and I feel like that just robs the creativity. But I feel like this is a good example of how to begin. This is how I do all of my builds. So when people ask me to do a build tutorial, honestly, I don't go into creative, and when I'm in my survival world, I don't go into creative first and build to see how it's done or how it looks because honestly, I'm pretty lazy, and I want to build something once, and I hate the redundancy of having to build something twice just to get the finished product that I'd be satisfied with. And so this is the method that I've developed to allow me to experiment in a survival world while still having full control from the very beginning, from the very first block laid, having full control of the entire build. Like I like this, but it's a little too flat on the back. I think maybe we can do something with that. Well, I know that this is 9 wide because I have my 3-inch centers here. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I know that that's 9 wide. So I can take and begin a 9 wide circle. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, wait. 2, 3, 4, boom. Now, so there's my center block. How did I do that? Do that and then pop up. And there we are. Now I just added this round shape to the back of the house with almost no issue. And I could even round it up a little more, like so. And I can do this without really any major struggle because I understand where my centers are, where my odds are, where my evens are. And so things like that is what makes a build like this possible. And so there it would be from the side. And now we've got this nice, interesting corner here. I could say, well, maybe I want to later on expand my base and put another wing on it. Well, because we know exactly how this side was built, we can just do our 3x3 on this side and just expand it. And you can just keep adding your shapes without worry at all, because you don't have to say, well, how did I do this? Because you know already how you did it. So what I'm trying to accomplish here is I don't want to tell you guys how to mindlessly place blocks. I want you guys to receive the tools that you need to build what is in your minds and in your hearts. And so I really hope that this video helps you. I'd be very pleased if you guys would send me pictures of what you've built on my Twitter. It's at SoloSilas. If you guys could do that, that would just make my day. But I think you guys have it in you to be just as creative as you want to be without somebody teaching you how to build something. I think that you guys have all the originality that you need and all the tools at your disposal. And hopefully with these little tutorials that I'm doing, maybe you can expand your tools and your understanding. And I hope that you all have a beautiful day, and I hope that this helps you. This is SoloSilas. I'm signing off. Alright guys, so I figured the best way to demonstrate these building techniques, is to just show you in my survival world here. This is on my little server, and the building behind me is a longhouse that I built just not too long ago, using exactly what I was explaining in the tutorial. So if we come in and we take a look here, you can see very clearly that I started with our 3x3 squares, 2, 3, and this is our entryway. It's a 3x3 centered door, and then here is our interior. And if you follow along the walls here, you can see the 3x3 all the way through this. Now at a glance, you know, it just looks like an intricate build. But if you follow through, I put these anvils here to make it easier for you to see that it just follows the same pattern. Here's our 3x3 around the door. You can see where I changed the entryway. And then there's our 3x3 to the outside. I wanted this pattern. I knew I wanted this pattern. I'd made this pattern as kind of like this village's flag. And I wanted this pattern in the floor. And as a 1-dot center, I knew that I would need an odd number so that I could have my single point center with my tails here. Because with an even number, it would have had to have been a square with 2 wide tails on the ends. I also knew that I wanted a fire pit in the middle, so I gave it that. And this was just to showcase, like I said, whenever you're beginning a build, how you want to have control from the very first block placed. Like you have it in your mind and you want to create it, and this method just gives you a little bit more control over that. If we walk across town, there's some old generated structures still in this village. But if we were to walk across town here, say to the weaver's house, we can see the exact same method being used on a much smaller scale. Where you can see my 3x3 design. And it doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be gaudy. And then you can see for the building here, the entryway, I wanted a 3x3 because it's a small home. I wanted a single door center. But for the rest of the house, I wanted it to be a little bit bigger. And the center, I didn't have any plans for. I just wanted a little bit more size. And a little bit of variance. And so past the entryway here, I did a 4x4. So if we come out here and look, we've got our 3 centers here, but then we have a 4 wide on the sides. And what that does is it gives it just a little bit more depth. And we still have our centers because of the 3x3, but we have just that extra depth due to the 4. And we also, because of the 4 deep, we still have a center to the building, but we also have a 2 block wide center running lengthways. And that gives you a little bit more of a path through the home, a little bit more flow, because if it had just had the single block, then this would be much tighter. I don't think I'd have had a room for the beds. Anyway, this is Solo, signing off. I hope you guys have a beautiful day and enjoy your building. And we'll see you next time. Bye.